Hey everyone, Greg Woodward here, and this is your weekly win. Among the most common mistakes I see salespeople make is unpacking too much content in one interaction, whether it's on a call, an email, a presentation, or whatever, and doing this with the idea that prospects will tell you what they're interested in and will be able to sift out and recognize value on their own. Don't do this. This is a big mistake. You never want to try and give your prospect an MBA in your business in one interaction. Sometimes we have a tendency to lose sight of the fact that not everyone needs to know our product or solution like we do. And sometimes we feel like each interaction with a prospect is the only interaction that we'll have, so we unpack too much because we believe there may not be another opportunity to do so. You see, when we communicate directly with a prospect, we need to understand how our brains process information. Offering up too much in a single interaction triggers what I call the feature brain, okay? And this adds to the prospect's already scattered and frustrated mind. Think about it like this. If you're teaching someone how to drive a car, the first thing you would do is cover what they absolutely need to know. Here's how you turn the car on, here's how you make it go, and here's how you stop, and so forth. If you started teaching someone to drive by explaining how the engine works instead of sticking to what they absolutely need just to get started, they would probably become confused and overwhelmed. And when this happens, people tend to divert to the path of least resistance, okay? Which in this case might be to take the bus. It's the same with prospecting. We want our desired outcome to be the path of least resistance. And to do that, you need to start by thinking less is more, okay? We need to share just enough information in the right sequence, just enough to drive the car. They don't need to know exactly how the engine works. When we unload too much information on our prospects, especially with cold outreach, we can unknowingly produce the opposite result of what we're trying to achieve. They don't know what to focus on, and when that happens, they aren't able to visualize their problems being solved. With outbound, our goal is to lead prospects to a point of relevant clarity as quickly as possible. Now, relevant clarity happens when your prospect has a clear image in their mind about what you represent and why it matters to them, okay? When we give too many details up front, it takes longer for the prospect to reach this point, and if they lack relevant clarity, you'll lose their attention and your ability to influence them, okay? You want to give them just enough, right? Only what's absolutely needed to go from point A to point B, which in this case means from a point of relevant clarity to a point of expressing interest in your desired outcome. Here's what I represent, here's why it matters to you, and here's what you can do next. Let's use the example of a cold call, okay, just to illustrate this point. You want the prospect to understand who you are, why they care, and what they should do next in that specific order, okay? For example, I help B2B companies ramp and scale outbound prospecting with a 6-week program specifically for outbound sales reps. But the reason I'm calling, I read in your annual report that this is a major focus for your company. So I wanted to share some information with you to see if there might be a fit here. Can we set some time to chat next week? I'll also send you some background about me beforehand. In this example, I stated very clearly what I do and why it's relevant to them. I didn't get into the weeds with too many details or do any selling. I stayed focused on the objective at hand, saying just enough to guide the prospect to a point of relevant clarity and lead them to my call to action. Okay? I don't, for example, say something like this. I'm calling to share some information about the Outbound Accelerator program. It's a 6-week program for outbound sales reps. My program incorporates an online resource portal with weekly coaching sessions, and I do all the coaching sessions for my company. My program helps reps stay in stride with less hand-holding, teaches them how to cold call, build, test, and iterate their playbook. In the program, reps learn to take control of their outbound prospecting by understanding a novel approach and the importance of their own mindset as well as their prospect's subconscious mind. Is there a time next week that we could connect to see if there might be a fit here? In this second example, I'm unpacking way too much information for an initial cold call, okay? I'm giving the prospect details that are very important, about my program, but that aren't immediately creating relevant clarity. In this example, most of the information regarding how the program works, what it covers and so forth, is much more effectively communicated on the call I'm trying to schedule, which is why in the first example, I didn't bring it up at all. I only focus on the information that's essential to my objective like what I do, why it matters to them, and I don't trigger the feature brain by speaking about additional details. When we approach prospects in a way that avoids triggering the feature brain, we make it much easier for them to understand exactly what we offer and how it meets their needs. This makes our prospecting much more effective, and when our prospecting is more effective, we win.